Maryland Governor Larry Hogan enters his final year in office with an unbelievable 74% approval rating in the latest Gonzalez opinion poll. Yet with a General Assembly heavily controlled by Democrats, Governor Hogan is likely to run into stiff opposition to his legislative agenda for reducing taxes and increasing funding for the police. Laurie, at the start of the General Assembly, there are likely four key areas of battle between the governor and the legislature. The first is on redistricting. The second is the continued COVID crisis. The third is what to do with the enormous budget surplus that has been handed to us. And finally, the governor's desire to increase funding for police. What is he going to be able to accomplish this term?
It's going to be tough. Revenues are expected to exceed projections by $1.6 billion in Maryland. So that's a lot of money for all of the Democratic legislators to play with. So I think they're going to want to have a heyday with that. So I'm hoping that redistricting is going to be the main thing that gets through this year. It is something that Hogan has been really focusing on ever since he came in office, and he's been working on bringing in judges. He's appointed most of the judges that are sitting right now, which will really help if it goes to the stage of going to court. And there are 2 lawsuits right now. So that's standing by just in case it doesn't go through with he has his own redistricting commission that it's appointed, and it was all very balanced and very bipartisan. And then there's another redistricting commission that is that's from the legislators, and they have created a very gerrymandered map. So they probably want that one to go forward, but they haven't voted on it, and they will vote on it, and they have 45 days to vote on a map. And if they don't vote on it, then Hogan's map just automatically becomes the new map. So we'll see, but I think redistricting is the one thing. I think policing will be quietly improving over time. I don't think that that's something that the Democrats are going to want to really say that they're putting money into it, but I think they will quietly.
Well, Mike, Laurie makes a good point. I mean, last year, the General Assembly focused heavily on police reform issues, especially with the new Speaker of the House and Senate Majority Leader, who are very active in those 2 regards. So are we going to see a more quiet General Assembly where things are going to be just on normal business issues, or are we going to see a more active General Assembly like we saw last year?
I don't think you're going to see as active a General Assembly as you saw last year. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on the financial resources, as Laurie indicated. I think that the legislature should be mindful of much of the surplus that we have as a result of the money that we receive from the federal government, and so you've got really some significant increases, but these are, if you can focus on one-time expenditures, and whether those are one-time expenditures that are investments or looking at tax reduction, I think they should take a balanced approach at that, because if you're not careful, you end up setting ourselves up for a cyclical we end up looking at the fiscal challenges that we've had in the past. And so, recognize where we are, put some money in for the rainy day fund, and then actually take a balanced approach to looking at potentially some measured tax reduction, while also making some key investments, but things that are one-time expenditures, not things that are going to continue on in your base budget for years to come.
Well, I mean, you didn't say the magic words, the Kirwan Commission or the Thornton Commission, either one of which had multiple unfunded mandates going forward. I mean, the issue really is, as I see it, is that the General Assembly made a statement last year in terms of new leadership and in new priorities. And the question is whether or not there was anything that was left undone after a very active session last year.
I think your point is right. I think if there's anything left undone, it was actually providing resources for some things. And so I think if they can take a measured approach and provide some of those additional resources this year, I think that's probably going to be where their approaches will be, especially going into an election year. I think as you add your question as it relates to the governor's police initiative, much of what's in there is increasing pay for state troopers, which probably looking at state troopers or police in local jurisdictions, most metrics indicate that they're probably paid less than their peers in other parts of the country, especially given the cost of living here. So that's probably not a bad thing to look at. But then there are also things like neighborhood grants and funding for initiatives like that, which I think the General Assembly recognizes you want to put public safety dollars as close to the people in the community as possible. And so I don't know that that actually is diametrically opposed to what the legislators did last year. I think it's providing more public safety resources for communities, and that's not a bad thing. And so I think you'll see some of those things happen. But I think, as Laurie indicated, it'll probably be in a more quiet approach than what the governor's laid out.
So Laurie, given the enormous popularity that the governor has, 74% approval rating is almost unheard of, particularly for a Republican governor in the state of Maryland. How does he take that personal popularity and to make it successful with the General Assembly?
He does. I mean, he seems to be getting along better with everyone than I think in the past few years. It's just so frustrating, though, that all of his vetoes are always overridden. And it's like the General Assembly forgets that the people voted for him and they support his views and what he stands for. So I don't know why, I just, I hope he can have even a bigger effect than in the past. So we'll see what happens, but he's got that wind behind him with all the people supporting it, and it's just amazing that 78% of Democrats are in favor of Hogan's job, according to a recent Gonzalez poll. So that is just amazing, considering he's a Republican.
Well, so let's take that popularity and that wind behind his back for our exit question, which is, Mike and Laurie, many Republicans have urged Governor Hogan to run against U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen for the U.S. Senate. But as the governor says, he really doesn't know what is he going to do. So first, Mike, and then Laurie, what's your prediction as to what Governor Hogan does?
I honestly don't think he wants to run. I think it's really hard to be a CEO and to have been a chief executive in a state and then run for the U.S., then be in the U.S. Senate, where you are one of 100 and your voice is fairly muted and it's difficult to kind of find a platform. That being said, I think it's too attractive for Republicans not to have somebody popular like him running in the state of Maryland, that I think he may end up doing it, but I really don't think his heart will be in it. And Chris is pretty popular as well. So I think, if he wanted to do it, I think it would be quite a race. I just don't think he really wants to do it.
Laurie.
Well, I think that Hogan really needs to run for state U.S. Senator, because the country really needs him and the state really needs him. I think that Van Hollen has proven that he's not really what has he done? I don't really know what he's done lately. I think he looks the part, but I think that Hogan acts the part and he actually does the work that needs to be done. So I would love to see Hogan run for U.S. Senator. And I think that he has an excellent chance of winning and, putting Van Hollen to pasture.
Well, I think Governor Hogan's has broader ambitions than the U.S. Senate. He certainly has flirted with the idea of running for president. We'll see
and that's what I think he might want to do as well.
Where that goes.